Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Hofherr, General Manager, Higher Education here at Workday. I'm joined today by Jeff Selingo, author and educational strategist.
Mike, great to be here.
Jeff, great to have you. Let's get started.
Demographics are really changing in higher education, and so that requires us to really rethink how we're serving students. So student success has been a big issue in higher education for the last 20 years. There's been a lot of focus on moving the needle in terms of retention and graduation rates. But during the pandemic, I think people started to think, well, maybe the ways that we've been addressing student success don't quite work for this new generation of students. I wrote this paper supported by Workday about rethinking student success, and we looked at a lot of things in that paper that are really under the microscope now in terms of rethinking how we serve students. So in the piece I wrote, there's such a focus now on how to make students kind of central to the entire college experience, how to make that seamless experience with their courses and everything else. So what excites you about this next generation of student success?
Yeah, I mean, this is my favorite topic, right? Like I'm the son of educators. Education is at the core of why I'm here at Workday, and it's been the core of why we've done things for a long time the way we do at Workday, right? We named our product Student, right? We didn't name it, something else, right? It was students at the forefront, and we really, I think, need this clean slate approach to rethinking that digital student experience, meeting students where they are, 24/7, 365, because that's the world they live in, right? Everything else they do, everything else that they interact with is 7 days a week, 365 for better or worse, right?
Well, they want that that immediate feedback. They want that ability to do things, in the middle of the night, in the middle of the day. They don't want to stand in line, and you're enabling them to do that.
Yeah, and the reality of that situation is on most campuses, the systems that students are interacting with are probably older than they are, right? Like, just from my own experience of talking to folks, these things were created a long time ago, right? Because, they're difficult to implement and higher education's not, reticent for change as much.
Well, and they were built for a student. As we said, the demographics of students are changing, right? So we have older students, we have students who are working part-time while going to school. We have students who are working learners. We have students with their own kids, as we saw during the pandemic. So they're not this traditional 18-year-old student who's living on campus for 4 years in every single case. It's not that segment's going away, but there are many different types of personas of students now that institutions have to be thinking about.
And if you think about what they were built to replace, right? Like my generation, your generation, we got a book with all the courses in it, and you called up on the phone, and if it was busy, that meant the course was filled, right? The generation prior to us, had to stand in line in a gymnasium with cards and fill out their schedule. And if you didn't get the course you wanted, then you didn't get the course you wanted. And the same with the phone. And it's not a good business model for institutions, right? How do you make more courses available to more people? But that also then, relates to, how do you graduate faster and get people, with degrees? And this ability, I think, to enable equity across student populations, really reducing those traditional barriers that we've had, those traditional bottlenecks or roadblocks in the system. It's really the ability to enable equity across, student populations, reducing these traditional barriers. We have commuter students from Furman University registering on mobile during an emergency, right? Or she had to commute home the same day as registration and was able to pull over at a rest stop and register for her classes without...
And be able to do that on a mobile device.
To do that from a phone. At a rest stop in your car, like not in the gymnasium getting the card, right?
But as you said, this is the way people expect to live these days, right? These are the way students are living in every other part of their life. But yet when they get to college campuses, they see all these barriers that I have to show up at an office between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., right? Well, what if you're not able to do that?
Yeah, and I think even the next step, right? That's the student experience, the front end, what they experience and the ease of use. But then how are we helping administrators find those students that are at risk, right? Because those are the kids that really need our help. And at CCA and Point Loma, we've been able to create at-risk student dashboards, here at Workday that proactively identify those at risk which then kick off advising processes or help with new tactics or getting them information that they need to be successful.
Yeah, and Mike, I think it's a really important point because higher ed always used to just sit back and wait, right? And we used to have this whole idea, look to your right, look to your left, the student may not be there. Again, it was a very institutionally focused way of thinking about this. And if a student didn't come to you and said that they were having an issue in a class, or you would have to wait till the end of the class to decide, well, they didn't get the great grade, and so now that student may end up leaving. So this idea where you can be much more proactive now as an advisor or a faculty is enabled through technology like Student.
Yeah, and we have to have the tools and the training and the education to help people use that, right? And I think at the core of that is data, right? It's data, right? And I think Workday is uniquely positioned in that space to really bring data to the forefront of those conversations, that they have new insights into not just the student learning, how the university operates, where, who's making purchases on what are the, pencils we're buying or paper, how much we spend on paper or travel or all those things that go across our product set. But, it's a new dawn for administrators at universities, at colleges, and those that embrace it, whether it's multi-institution, whether that's the new consortial approach, whether that's how you're interacting with your students, are the ones that are going to, I think, be successful going forward.
And thinking about this data piece, I think a lot of, institutions are awash in data. They're not necessarily, people are not necessarily experts in data. You're now able, because of these new tools, the data is just much more democratized in a way that the faculty, the advisors, right, they can see this in a way that they never had access to before. So again, they could take action.
And there's two camps about this. I'm sure you hear this when you're out every day. Like, there's the people that love the democratization of data, and there's the people that do not like. I won't use the word hate, but they do not like it, right? Because now we can see, well, why does this class fill up faster than this class? Is that,
why is there a high failure rate?
Why is there a high failure rate, or why is this even exam or question, causing students not to move forward? And there's real value in that. I know I was reading a paper, I forget where it was, a couple months ago, about, the 10%, right? 90 is an A, right? In most cases, right? But what if the most important part of that grade or that course is the 10% that you didn't understand? Because that next course builds on that. How do we know? In the past, we never knew that.
Right. And this is the culture change again, where you're putting the student at the center. And this is the thing when we did this paper on rethinking student success, it was, okay, we've had this way of thinking about student success for the last 20 years, but it's clear now we have to really even put more effort into helping students get over these barriers that often, by the way, the institution is putting up in front of them, not the students themselves.
Right. And that's how we've designed our suite of products at Workday. Students at the center, HCM and finance, to help that university or college make a complete picture and help in that success. Well, Jeff, this has been a great conversation.
It's been great to be with you, Mike.